Welcome. This is truly an opportunity to rejoice in the recognition of what is, that which is, we often say, the mechanics of life. They can't be interfered with, they can't be disturbed. We've just been wrong, collectively wrong. It might seem like that's the case for a long time, but in knowing truth, you realize no time has passed and nothing has been affected, impacted, or touched that is real. So today we're going to read on in what you actually are and pull the thread in preparation for our final session tomorrow before we change things up completely. Who doesn't love changing things up completely? Love it. I'm happy to do it. And recently I ran into someone I hadn't seen for a while, and they were absolutely stunned and shocked. And when I say, well, I mean 20 or more years, that I wasn't involved in my very successful naturopathic clinic anymore, that I had nothing to do with treating an individual in the way that conventional thinking might align with. And I don't see any value in staying the same, because that really means that you're staying confined and staying defined. That's been the problem. We stay confined and we stay defined by absolutely nothing. A self-imposed prison founded on misidentification. That's impossible. I can't not be what I am. I never was that other thing that I'm trying to fix and get away from and transcend and transform from, or become something else. We stand in the truth, and that is one single step. That is the actual beginning of living truly, living divinely. And of course, abundantly, which everyone wants, the abundance of everything, reality. So let's check out chapter 7 and pull this thread here, because this is really significant. We're going to look at chapter 7 and chapter 8. Action without an actor. Now, I invite you to listen with soft eyes. You know what that means. You hear this often enough. Because what we're speaking to is the omniactive, the simultaneous, omnipresent substance as supply and activity. Everything now. Everything all at once. There was a hilarious movie a few years ago that it had that as its title or something very similar. But let's realize that activity is happening. There just was never an actor. The only illusion was what I thought I was. Everything else is real, but not in the way that you think when you're misidentified. Ideas are perfect. You are the mind from which ideas flow and are never touched by an idea. There is a paradox that most seekers cannot hold, that true success is the end of human striving, and that human striving ensures failure. The person seeking success through human effort is seeking improvement of what is already perfect, is seeking to become something that is already complete, is seeking to gain something that is already present. In this seeking and pursuit itself is the failure. Real success is not something the person achieves. Real success is the natural function of consciousness, aware of itself, aware as itself. It is the spontaneous action that emerges when there is no false agent trying to make something happen. Now we need to pause here and understand that there is never an anomaly. There is only ever the activity of life. There's not a person's activity. There is only the activity of life as one of itself. It's only in knowing thyself that I can live. This is not a spiritual woo-woo conversation. This is how life works. This is relevant for everyone. This isn't, in fact, I'm starting to hesitate to use the word spirit because spirit has been so adulterated and mismanaged by misidentification. So we're never trying to make something happen. We're recognizing life is happening gloriously. I've just missed it because I've been involved in a daydream that isn't really what's going on and has actually kept me from the joy and peace that is already mine, that is already inherent. So I am done pretending. So let's think about what success means in human terms. It usually means gaining something you don't have, becoming someone you are not, reaching a place you are not currently in. All of this assumes lack. All of this assumes insufficiency. All of this assumes that what you are right now is not enough. As long as this is the assumption, you will chase success. We can't help but. That's kind of the program that you can't outrun, you can't outsmart under the spell of false identification. There's no fix. There's just endless management that actually never delivers what you hope it will. The fulfillment that is permanent, that sense of wholeness, that knowing that all is well, better than well, that's an understatement. You will accumulate things, achievements, experiences, and each success will be quickly replaced by a new sense of lack, a new desire, a new pursuit. Why? The endless game of goal setting has become so entrenched in personal development because you're trying to fill an emptiness through accumulation. And emptiness cannot be filled through adding things to it. This is the horrific secret of all therapeutic pursuit. Set goals for yourself. Make them small if you can't make them big. It's tragic. And ego is laughing its head off. We stay trapped, assuming there is a thing that needs fixing. And this unquestioned assumption, what I am, is rampant. And it leads to experience that seems real and touches the truth of your inherent, inviolate perfection not. Not even a little bit. Because you're trying to fill an emptiness through accumulation, an emptiness cannot be filled through adding things to it. And that's the doozy of the lie that we've bought. What if success is not the achievement of the person, but the natural function of consciousness, not pretending to be limited? In the moment when you are most fully yourself, not trying to be someone, not seeking to gain something, not defending against anything, what happens? You can look now and you can notice this for yourself, and that's the invitation. Don't believe words. Don't believe man whose breath is in his nostrils. Life happens. Action happens. Things get done. But here's the great secret, if you will. When you've taken the and out, when you recognize one actually is the only thing going on, there is no one doing them. There is only the doing. Just like there's not anyone knowing anything, there is just knowing. This is radically different from the effortful doing that comes from a sense of lack. Diametrically opposed, actually. This is action emerging from wholeness, not from the desperate attempt to become whole. Most people try to fake this. They try to act as if they are whole while still secretly believing they are incomplete and on a mission to fix something. We all know these people. Ah. But if you get them in a room and have a chat, you hear everything that's wrong. They try to perform as if they have nothing to prove while underneath feeling deeply inadequate. This does not work. This creates a split and an inauthenticity that is felt by everyone around them. And this is really why we exist at One Life Truth Love, because this is our predominant client. Those who know they have already achieved everything and more, and in most cases, based on our client demographic, are teaching it to others and feel horrific as a level of embarrassment known by few that I don't genuinely, permanently, without opposition, live perfectly, peacefully. And that's a great shame because that's normal life. And what we've found is that it's really the most successful that suffer the most. Not those who don't think they have anything, but those who have everything and feel like they have failed. There's something deeply wrong with them because they have ticked all the boxes. This is probably speaking to you too. They've ticked all the boxes and still feel like the proverbial poop. The only thing that works is actual recognition, the actual seeing that what you are right now is complete, the actual knowing that you have nothing to gain and nothing to prove. From this place, authentic action emerges naturally, effortlessly, harmoniously. This applies to money, this applies to relationship, this applies to work and creativity and all what we call real man endeavors. Let's be clear here. The only issue is that you've believed yourself to be something that you're not. The only illusion is that you believe yourself to be something you're not, and thus misperception is at play because of this misidentification. Nothing real is ever lost, but it's diluted and it's dimmed. Nothing real can ever leave you because you are all. You are the real itself. The person trying to make money from a sense of lack will experience constant strain and insecurity. The person trying to have a successful relationship from a sense of incompleteness will experience constant neediness and grasping. The person trying to create from a sense of inadequacy will experience constant self doubt and editing. But the person who has recognized their own completeness, their functioning, is different. Not because they've become selfish or careless, but because the underlying orientation has shifted. They're not trying to get something. Can you hear this? When we live knowing thyself, we're not trying to get something. And if you want to know what the secret is, it's living from wholeness, which is what you already are, right here where I am. And then the way of living that is the way of old, that is the way of persons and the way of misidentification is replaced by the new way of living, the new dawn, the heralding of a new day from wholeness. And it looks nothing like the typical chase your tail life on a roller coaster. That's the dream state that comes with all the feelings of inadequacy that are inherent in misidentification, which is perpetual lack, limitation, suffering, and struggle. So the person who has recognized their own completeness, their functioning is different. Not because they've become selfish or careless, but because the underlying orientation has shifted. They're not trying to get something. They're not trying to become someone. They're not trying to prove anything. From this place, abundance appears naturally, not because they deserve it or have earned it, that they're special in any way, because that's not the case for anyone. There's no inequality. Life is entirely impersonal and operates for everyone equally. We just fail to know the mechanics of life. which has been called a lack of awareness or ignorance. And we can be given this. We've had way showers tell us since antiquity, so to speak. We simply stand on the shoulders of giants. We're not trying to recreate a wheel here. We're just looking where we're told to look to discover I am found. And in that discovery is already the established, fully established, living recognition and tangible recognition, experience, in other words, that is concurrent with that awareness, that wholeness, and that completeness. I've never been lacking anything. It's not possible. They're not trying to prove anything. From this place, abundance appears naturally, not because they deserve it or have earned it or have done the right practices, but because the very structure of wholeness includes infinite provision. The wholeness that you are cannot be incomplete in terms of supply. That would be a contradiction. As you cease the frantic seeking from a place of lack, as you recognize the completeness that is already present, abundance ceases to be something you need to attain or achieve or strive for, and simply shows up as the natural provision of existence, because all action is without an actor. Life is a gift that is given and it's complete. We weren't given a life and then told, do what you can, do your best, carry on. No, you've got the beginning bit now, like a puzzle, you've got to figure out the rest. That's not really a gift, is it? That's more like a booby prize. But life is already whole and complete. We've never had to struggle or strive for anything. There is a way of seeing that is aligned vision, or Christ vision as it's called, which is immaculate, perfect, whole and complete, oneness vision. Christ is not a person. Christ is identity or awareness or I-ness. That's not personal. Everything that we have overlaid on top of what I actually is the problem. The truth has always been here. We just have to learn how to see. This has nothing to do with spirit and spiritual woo-woo, which is so pervasive these days. This is simply the mechanics of life. You've always been the divine, the infinite. Right here, right now. So we've got to be clear that it's not because anyone's earned it or deserved it or done the right practices, but because the very structure of wholeness includes infinite provision. The wholeness that you are cannot be incomplete in terms of supply. That would be a contradiction. We often have these conversations, don't we, that really we just fail to follow through on what is actually logic. So much has been allowed to slip past the keeper without being questioned. Unquestioned assumptions. Haven't we heard this from other way showers? As you cease the frantic seeking from a place of lack, as you recognize the completeness that is already present, abundance ceases to be something you need to attain, and supply simply shows up as the natural provision of existence. That's exactly how this works. That's exactly how life is living itself. There was never any interference. That's the illusion that is simply the unquestioned assumption that I am separate from life itself is the only anomaly, and we can get past that, can't we? So many of you already have. So many of you already share every single day how that looks in experience, because the experience of wholeness is reality. This doesn't mean that you stop working. This does not mean you abandon responsibility, but it means you work from a different foundation, and that changes everything. Be entirely transformed by the renewing of your mind. In other words, be entirely transformed with the facts in hand. When you know how to live, you can live. That just is obvious, isn't it? You work from sufficiency rather than scarcity. You work from creativity rather than desperation. You work from natural intelligence because you are omniscience, pretending not to be. The natural intelligence of consciousness expressing itself rather than from the limited strategies of the ego trying to survive. Business, living itself. In this recognition, becomes very business itself. Everything living in this recognition becomes very simple. It becomes the natural provision of what is needed in each moment. It becomes the action that arises from wholeness, not the manipulation that arises from lack. And this is significant. And this is, dare I say, what we were told in the Lord's Prayer, which has no religious or woo-woo connotations whatsoever in reality. Give us this day our daily bread. Every seeming what we call moment is fresh and new and perfect and whole. This is just the mechanics of life. The person who tries to be successful fails. The one who recognizes that consciousness itself is the only business happening and that this business is already perfect and complete, finds that authentic success is not something they achieve, but something they are. And this is what's called being about the Father's business, which again is not religious. It's not denominational. It's being about the business of life, of living. If you don't know how to live, you can't. And what we call that is dying. And so where there is an appearance of death, that is simply misidentification. It's not real in truth sense, but it's experienced as real because awareness, what you know yourself to be, and experience are one and the same.